Why, hello there, and welcome to Vicky's Neighborhood. I'm Stephanie, and today I'll be reading you Vicky Goes to the Doctor. In this story, Vicky comes down with a tummy ache after Tabasco sauce is accidentally added into her chili that was made by her Grandma Ruby, and so Aunt Pat takes her to her Uncle Peter and Aunt Lizzie to get it treated. So are you ready? Good. Then let's begin now. On Saturday, Vicky's Grandma Ruby came by with a crock pot filled with her special homemade chicken chili. Martin and Carol were gone for the weekend, while Uncle Bob and Aunt Pat were in the house to look after the kids. Of course, Grandpa Max tagged along with his wife, as he brought in some fresh-baked cornbread. "Hey, Grandpa Max," Vicky said. "Let me help you and Grandma Ruby set the table up for lunch." "Same here," Janine, Eddie, Cousin Sam, Cousin Dan, and Cousin Kate agreed. "Thank you very much, kids," Grandpa Max replied. So Vicky helped set up the table for lunch along with her siblings and cousins, and of course Uncle Bob, Aunt Pat, Grandpa Max, and Grandma Ruby served the chicken chili, cornbread, some cinnamon applesauce, and a jug of apple cider. But just as Vicky was ready to serve herself some cornbread from a serving autumn plate, she said that she needed to go to the bathroom. "Don't forget to wash your hands real good," Grandpa Max called after her, as he joined everyone else at the dining room table for lunch, except for Janine. For some reason, Janine got distracted by a housefly buzzing in front of her face, just as she was covering her chili with shredded sharp cheddar cheese and sour cream, and she got so annoyed that she shooed away from her and the food in front of her. "Hey, get out of here, fly!" Janine cried. But the housefly continued to annoy her until Janine prepared to smack it dead with both hands. "Okay, you little monster," Janine frowned. "You annoyed me for the last time." With one clean swipe, Janine smacked the housefly. She got it. "What happened over there, Janine?" Grandma Ruby asked. "Nothing, Grandma Ruby," replied Janine. "Just smacked a housefly. It's dead." "Good girl, Janine," Aunt Pat said. "Hey, now you'll need to wash your hands," Uncle Bob laughed. "Yeah, Janine, throw that dead fly outside for the spiders. They love flies," Eddie agreed. Janine noticed that she accidentally knocked over a small bottle of Tabasco sauce like a bowling pin, and she immediately stood it back up before any more could spill inside Vicky's chili. Then she did just as Eddie and her Uncle Bob had told her. Soon Vicky returned to the kitchen to finish serving herself as Janine washed her hands at the kitchen sink after flicking the dead fly out of the kitchen window. She smiled at Vicky and did her very best to hide her guilt. "Why, Janine, you're in a good mood," said Vicky. "Yeah, I'm just glad we're having chili for lunch," Janine replied innocently. "Oh, yes," Vicky agreed. "I like chili since my year in kindergarten last year." After lunch, Grandpa Max and Grandma Ruby went home to pick fresh tomatoes from their garden, and Vicky decided to help with the dishes by drying them with dish towels. She had dried 3 dishes so far when she felt as though someone punched her in the stomach with its fist. Vicky groaned in pain. "Are you okay, Vicky?" Janine asked as she watched her baby sister sink to her knees. "No, I am not okay," replied Vicky. "What's wrong, sis?" Eddie questioned, feeling twice as concerned as Janine was. "My tummy hurts," Vicky replied sadly. "I need my doctor. I need Uncle Peter." "Aunt Pat, can you call Uncle Peter?" Janine called from the kitchen. "Yeah, Vicky has a tummy ache," agreed Eddie as he picked his baby sister up and cradled her in his arms. Aunt Pat took the phone off the wall and dialed the doctor's office that was 2 or 3 blocks away from Vicky's neighborhood. "Hello, Mary. This is Patricia Chandler," Aunt Pat began. "Will you please connect me with my brother, Dr. Peter Wheeler?" "Sure, Pat," a receptionist named Mary Blue replied in a Chinese accent. Mary Blue, Mrs. Chan's sister, transferred Aunt Pat's call. Inside Uncle Peter's office, Vicky's uncle was busy working on his computer when he heard his own phone ringing. "Dr. Wheeler's office," he answered politely. "Hello, Peter. This is Pat," Aunt Pat replied. "Hi, Pat. What's up?" said Uncle Peter. "Vicky has a tummy ache. Can you schedule her an appointment right away?" asked Aunt Pat. "I'll be glad to," Uncle Peter replied. "Thanks, big brother," Aunt Pat grinned, and she hung up the phone. Eddie returned from upstairs and brought down Vicky's panda bear from the amusement park. "Here, Vicky," Eddie said. "Why don't you take Po with you? He can keep you company." "Okay, Eddie," Vicky agreed as she took her panda. "Thank you." After hugging her brother, Vicky carried Po out to Aunt Pat's car, and it took the both of them a good couple of minutes to get to the doctor's office, where both Uncle Peter and Aunt Lizzie worked. When she got inside the waiting room with Aunt Pat and carried her Po the panda bear, Vicky walked over to the fish tank and saw some fish swimming in it, including a big fat one named Biggie. Vicky wished she could giggle, but in other words, she could not do it because of her tummy ache, except in a gentle way. Uncle Peter and Aunt Lizzie had such beautiful pet fish, but they kept them at the doctor's office they worked at, considering the fact they both had 1 dog and 2 cats named Teddy, Chrissy, and Chloe back at home. "Hello there, Biggie. I'm visiting my Uncle Peter. He's going to check my tummy," Vicky said to her Uncle Peter's favorite pet fish. Biggie just stared at her with those big bulgy black eyes. Bloop, 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 bloop. Now when Biggie blooped 5 times at Vicky, that was a big fat fish's way of saying, "Hello, Vicky. I'm sorry to hear that. Your uncle will make you feel better." Vicky giggled in a light and gentle manner, and had no idea that her Aunt Lizzie was coming behind her. "Talking to your Uncle Peter's favorite fish, Vicky?" asked Aunt Lizzie in a teasing voice. "Yes, Aunt Lizzie," Vicky replied without looking over her shoulder until she realized her Aunt Lizzie was behind her. "Oh, hi, Aunt Lizzie." "Hello, sweetie. How is my favorite niece? Is her tummy still hurting?" Vicky groaned in pain in response. "Yeah, Lizzie," Aunt Pat answered for her. "Janine accidentally knocked a bottle of Tabasco sauce into Vicky's chili we were having for lunch today. Our mother's homemade chicken chili." "Yeah, Aunt Lizzie," said Vicky. "It was an accident, but it still really hurts." "Aw, you poor baby," Aunt Lizzie sighed. "Come on, let's take you into your Uncle Peter's office, and he'll make you feel better." "Thanks, Aunt Lizzie," Vicky smiled. "You are welcome, my little angel." "Hello, Mrs. Webster," Vicky called to the lady who was returning to the front desk. "Hi, Vicky," Mrs. Webster grinned. "Hope you feel better soon." Of course, Vicky thanked her future aunt, for she knew one of her older cousins was getting married soon. Once Aunt Lizzie took Vicky to her husband's office, she set her down gently on the examining table with Aunt Pat following behind. "Okay, ladies, if you both can kindly wait here, I'll go get the doctor." Aunt Lizzie grinned. "Thank you, Lizzie," Aunt Pat grinned back. "You're welcome too, Pat," Aunt Lizzie giggled as she clicked her heels out of her husband's office. Vicki giggled carefully in a quiet manner, and she gave her prize panda bear a big hug in hopes of taking her mind off of the pain, and took a deep breath patiently. A couple of minutes later, there was a knock outside of Dr. Wheeler's office. "Who's there?" Vicki called. Of course, that made Aunt Pat remember when Vicki told her very own version of Little Red Riding Hood a couple of months back. "It's Uncle Peter," replied a male voice from outside. "Come in, Uncle Peter," Vicki said. "Come in, big brother," Aunt Pat smiled. The door opened, and in came Uncle Peter. "Hello, Uncle Peter," smiled Vicki. "Hello, Peter, dear brother," agreed Aunt Pat. "Hi, Vicki. Hi, Pat," Uncle Peter replied. "How are you, ladies?" "I'm good," Aunt Pat replied. "But I'm not," Vicki cut in. Uncle Peter turned his attention on his favorite niece. "Tell Uncle Peter what's the matter," he questioned. "My tummy hurts," Vicki responded. "Yeah, Peter, Janine accidentally knocked over a bottle of Tabasco sauce into Vicki's chili in the process of smacking a fly in the house," Aunt Pat agreed. "Oh, you poor sweet baby," Uncle Peter sighed, feeling sorry for his favorite niece. "But don't you worry, I can make your tummy feel better for you, and so will your Aunt Lizzie." "Aw, thank you, Uncle Peter," sighed Vicki. "You're welcome. But first I must give you an examination. You don't mind at all, do you, honey?" said Uncle Peter. "Not at all, Uncle Peter," Vicki said. Her doctor and uncle patted her on the head, and Vicki handed her Po the panda to her Aunt Pat. "You have such a beautiful panda, Vicki." Uncle Peter smiled. Then Uncle Peter began to examine his niece. He checked her blood pressure. He took her pulse. He took her temperature. He checked her reflexes. He examined her eyes. He examined her ears. He examined her nose. He examined her mouth. He examined her head. He listened to her heart. He listened to her lungs. All was in good working order, and Vicki's Uncle Peter told her that she has a very good heartbeat. "I do?" asked Vicki. "Well, of course you do," Uncle Peter replied with a reassuring smile. "It's very important to have a heartbeat, sweetheart." Vicki blushed, but Uncle Peter didn't mind. "Now, let's lay you down on the examining table and check your tummy," Uncle Peter said. Vicki nodded yes. After Vicki lay down on the examining table, she lifted up her shirt and pulled down her skirt, and her Uncle Peter proceeded to thoroughly examine her tummy. And as he pushed gently, Vicki responded to the pain as if she could feel the fire within her. "Ow!" "Oh, did you feel any discomfort?" Vicki nodded again. "So I see," said Uncle Peter. "Well, your Aunt Lizzie has made her very special tea with honey and lemon." That made Vicki happy. "Here you go, niecey," Aunt Lizzie said. "Drink it down and you'll be feeling better in no time." Vicki drank the honey and lemon iced tea, all up very slowly, and almost immediately she felt a good wave of relief within her tummy, as though the fire was extinguished. "Feeling better?" Uncle Peter asked. "I think so," Vicki said. "Can I use your bathroom?" "Sure, baby," Uncle Peter said. Vicki was escorted to the bathroom by Uncle Peter, while Aunt Lizzie stayed with Aunt Pat. After Vicki went to the bathroom and sampled some of her urine, she handed it to her Uncle Peter. "Thank you, baby," he smiled. "Now go wash your hands and I'll take your urine sample to the lab to get tested." Vicki blushed again and did as she was told, and as soon as she came out, her Uncle Peter returned, and knowing what Vicki needed, he bent down on one knee and hugged her, and gave her a pat on the back. "Uncle Peter?" said Vicki. "Yeah," Uncle Peter replied. "I want to thank you and Aunt Lizzie for making my tummy feel better," Vicki smiled. "You're welcome," Uncle Peter said. "I'll get you and Aunt Pat signed out, and back home you both go." And so Uncle Peter and Aunt Lizzie signed out Vicki and Aunt Pat, and of course bid the both of them goodbye after Vicki gave her Aunt Lizzie a hug. "Bye-bye," said Uncle Peter. "We'll see you again soon," Aunt Lizzie agreed, just as Vicki was once again carrying her Po the panda bear. "And a bloop, 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 bloop to you too, Biggie," Vicki called to Biggie the fish. "Vicki loves your favorite fish, Peter," Aunt Lizzie laughed. "Yeah, Lizzie, I remember the time she pointed at some fish at a pet store when she was a toddler," Uncle Peter agreed. As soon as Vicki and Aunt Pat returned home, Uncle Bob was cutting up some fresh apples, and Janine was heating up the caramel in the microwave for at least 8 seconds without any screw-ups. Vicki was happy to be eating again, and of course she was enjoying apples with caramel, but without any Tabasco sauce at all. And that is the end of Vicki Goes to the Doctor. Thank you very much for joining me today, everybody. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe to my channel. I'll be reading you Vicki, Billy, and Johnny, the 3 little pigs, in my next video. Until then, catch you later and have a lovely day!